Good morning. Let's discuss how to master your Foreign Service Specialist application. Foreign Service Specialists have essential expertise and prior work experience in diverse fields, and their application is slightly different than a generalist. We will explore the various components of the specialist application, offering practical tips to help you write a compelling and accurate submission. Our presentation will cover all steps of a Foreign Service Specialist application, beginning with where you will start, what needs to be included, and ending with general advice. So let's get started. Your Foreign Service career begins on USA Jobs, where all positions are advertised. Some positions are available year-round, while others have short application windows. We refer to a job opening as a vacancy announcement, and it includes all job details and requirements to apply. Before applying, read the USA Jobs vacancy announcement several times. You must meet or exceed all requirements listed at the time you submit your application. There are no exceptions. Now, most Foreign Service applicants apply several times before being successful. You may apply for the same job once in a 12-month period. If unsuccessful, you may reapply after the waiting period, which is 12 months from the date you last submitted an application for the same position. Applications submitted before the 12-month waiting period will be rejected, restarting your wait. You may also apply for multiple jobs simultaneously. Focus on jobs that you find professionally rewarding, narrow down your desired jobs, and concentrate on those applications. No single job is easier to get than another in the Foreign Service. Just embrace your strengths and go for it. As we said, all applications begin on USA Jobs and then filter through other sites like Pearson VUE or Monster. A few applications are processed initially by the Department of State, regardless of where you submit. The principles for a successful application remain the same. So let's dive into the minimum requirements you will need to meet to apply. Citizenship. You must be a U.S. citizen when submitting your application. U.S. citizens with dual citizenship or more citizenships may also apply. The citizenship of your family does not affect your application. Age. You must be at least 21 and under 60 at the time of your job appointment. Some exceptions apply for preference-eligible veterans, and some positions like diplomatic security special agents have additional age requirements. If you do not meet the Foreign Service age requirements that are set by Congress, please consider applying for a civil service position with no such restriction. The next minimum requirement that you need to examine is flexibility. The Foreign Service operates globally, so you must agree to worldwide availability, accepting assignments based on the service's needs. The next minimum requirement will be obtaining a security clearance. All Foreign Service positions require a top secret security clearance, a Foreign Service medical clearance, and a favorable suitability review. These investigations begin after a conditional offer of employment. You do not need a clearance to apply, and having a government clearance already does not provide an advantage in the application process. Some positions require specific physical abilities or skills like lifting heavy objects or possessing excellent eyesight. These details are in the job announcement, so please read it carefully. Foreign Service Specialist positions require formal education and/or certification programs. Requirements vary by specialty and are listed in the vacancy announcement. Education requirements are mandatory and therefore non-negotiable. You must meet these requirements before submitting your application, or it will be rejected. Some positions require proof of education with your application. Others require proof at a later stage of the application process. Read the vacancy announcement to determine when proof is needed. and when you would submit it. Ensure that your transcripts are legible. Illegible transcripts will end your candidacy, and we will not request a second copy from you. If your desired job requires specific coursework, ensure that it is clearly itemized on your transcript. For example, finance manager applicants must show at least 25 hours in budget and/or accounting courses. Using non-qualifying coursework for those 24 hours will result in rejection. Some positions allow substituting specialized work experience for education or vice versa. If permissible, it will be explicitly stated in the vacancy announcement. Some positions, like the security engineering officer, may even allow you to apply before completing all coursework. Again, read the vacancy announcement. If you plan to use foreign education, foreign certificates, or foreign degrees as a basis to qualify for your specialist position, you must provide proof that the education is equivalent to U.S. accredited education. Only documentation from NACES or AICE member organizations is accepted. Failure to provide this documentation is a common reason for rejection. Read this portion of the vacancy announcement for more information and links. Without doubt, the most important part of your specialist application is demonstrating that you have met or exceeded the required specialized work experience for a position. Each vacancy announcement lists the work experience that you must complete prior to submitting an application. Required work experience is listed within the USA Jobs announcement under the title Specialized Work Experience. It is the heart of your application to become a Foreign Service Specialist. List all work experience gained within the last 10 years, specialized or not. Include periods of unemployment as well. Assessors wish to see an unbroken timeline for the past 10 years. Periods of unemployment, travel, or study will not negatively affect your application. Just create an unbroken period of time for 10 years and focus on demonstrating your specialized work experience within that time frame. We are often asked if applicants may use specialized work experience beyond the past 10 years, and the answer is simply no. There are one or two jobs that will consider work experience beyond 10 years, and if this is permissible, it will be written clearly in the vacancy announcement. But for 98% of our positions, we will only consider your specialized work experience within the last 10 years. Specialized work experience must be paid unless expressly indicated otherwise in the vacancy announcement. Volunteer work or uncompensated specialized work experience will not be considered as meeting the required years of work experience. But you may include such experiences in your personal statement at a later part of the application. Be sure to include the dates for each work experience and the hours you worked per week. If a position requires 2 years of specialized work experience, then you should clearly demonstrate 2 years of full-time or 40 hours per week work experience for 24 months cumulatively over those 10 years. If you worked part-time, your experience will be prorated. Failure to include work dates and hours worked is another top reason that applications are rejected. As an example for you, prior to joining the Foreign Service, I had specialized work experience, but that experience had been part-time for 3 years at around 20 hours a week. Prorated, this experience translated to 1.5 years of specialized work experience. Be sure to separate different positions within the same organization or company to differentiate a shift in your responsibilities. This will create more space for you to highlight specialized experience, particularly if submitting your application through Pearson VUE or Monster, which may impose a character limit on your work experience. Some vacancy announcements place additional conditions on how you gain specialized work experience. For example, specialized work experience for office managers will only be counted if the specialized work comprised 60% or more of your duties in a position. And for finance managers, their specialized work will only count if it was gained in a medium or large organization working with multi-million-dollar budgets. General Services Officer applicants must demonstrate general work experience in management, in addition to years of specialized work in contracting, procurement, etc., that made up at least 60% of their duties. So my point here is to read the details for your desired position and clearly note these distinctions when writing of your past specialized work experience on your application if it is required. Finally, use key phrases from the vacancy announcement to describe your specialized work experience. Key phrases make up the duties and skills listed under the Specialized Experience section of the vacancy announcement. Using them will ensure that we are speaking the same industry language and helps assessors accurately evaluate your past work experience. Now, the main difference between a private sector resume and a federal government resume is length and detail. Private sector resumes are short and concise. You may have heard no more than 2 pages or no more than a page, while federal resumes require extensive detail, similar to a CV. Your federal resume is like a first job interview on paper. Describe each required specialized skill that you used in a position, describe the context in which you used it, and showcase your accomplishments. We'll demonstrate this in more detail on the next slide. If your vacancy announcement allows for an uploaded resume, use the USA Jobs Resume Builder. It ensures that you include key information and don't forget anything. Do not include a summary statement in your resume. Simply list your work experience, highlighting all instances within the past 10 years when you use specialized experience that is listed in the vacancy announcement. Some vacancy announcements allow for an uploaded resume, but many, such as those through Pearson VUE, limit character counts for work experience. Focus on the past 10 years unless the vacancy announcement specifies otherwise. Highlight your specialized experience from each job within this time frame. Use key phrases from the vacancy announcement to describe your specialized experience. Again, these phrases make up the specialized experience portion in the vacancy announcement. Now, there are many resume formats that we've seen, and we have no specific guidelines. Choose the format that best integrates key phrases to describe your skills, context, and accomplishments for each job that you have had within the last 10 years. Most applicants do use reverse chronological order. Finally, we do not use algorithms or applicant tracking systems to filter your application to the Foreign Service. Humans review each application. To gain an advantage, focus on demonstrating your specialized experience using the key phrases from the vacancy announcement along with your accomplishments. At this point in our presentation, I will demonstrate what you might do when reading through the vacancy announcement for your desired position. As our example, we are looking at the specialized work experience required to apply as a financial management officer. In this example, financial management officer applicants must demonstrate A, at least 3 years of financial management experience within the last 10 years in a medium or large organization. B, experience managing multi-million-dollar budgets over those 3 years cumulatively. C, evidence of increased responsibility over time. And D, skills and accomplishments in as many of the listed areas as possible for each job within the last 10 years. Each job will have a different set of specialized experience and key phrases. Make note of which skill sets that you need to include, along with additional requirements such as team size, budget size, percentage of your time spent in a job relating to the specialized work, use with technical or software programs, supervisory or management experience, etc. I personally find it helpful to visualize specialized experience by creating a word cloud. This is a word cloud created for the Financial Management Officer position on USA Jobs. I copied and pasted the specialized experience along with other parts of the application and focused on action verbs for the job. You'll need to do some editing if you use this method to eliminate common or irrelevant verbs, but this is a visual representation of verbs that an applicant may want to use and pair with key skill phrases from the vacancy announcement when demonstrating specialized experience. Again, this is only a suggestion. Now I will show you examples of how to capture your specialized experience in the first part of your application. Unlike private sector resumes, federal resumes are essentially your very first interview. They are extremely detailed and highlight a wide range of skills and accomplishments. Think of your resume as your part of a conversation with a hiring manager. It is your opportunity to describe your skills and experience for this position thoroughly. There is no strict rule about length. Your resume should be as long as necessary to comprehensively demonstrate your specialized experience. You may be limited by character length for some applications, but do your best to highlight every relevant skill used in every job you have had. So let's review some examples of specialized work experience for finance managers. They must demonstrate that they developed, formulated budgets, presented, justified, and executed budgets involving millions of dollars. So let's try our first example. The first example that an applicant wrote is develop and executed a $300 million construction budget. This statement provides specific dollar amounts, which is a requirement in the vacancy announcement, but it lacks context and does not reference expert budgeting skills, nor does it list any outcomes. The second example reads, developed and executed a $300 million construction budget for 2 overseas factory installations in India and China. Presented payment and billing alternatives to avoid cost overrun. Okay, this is better. The candidate mentions 2 key phrases, which I have bolded for you. Places their expertise in context by demonstrating complexity, citing 2 separate locations. The outcome is general, but there is an outcome. In our third example, this applicant wrote, developed and executed a $300 million construction budget for 2 overseas factory installations in India and China. When my analysis suggested a potential cost overrun, I presented payment and billing alternatives to company executive. Costed out expenditures in collaboration with HR to negotiate a 4% reduction in labor contracts. All right, this is an excellent example. The candidate provides specifics, mentions several key phrases that demonstrate expertise in budgeting and justification, and ties their budget expertise to a measurable outcome. Again, I have bolded some of the key phrases for you. Please do not do that in your application, but I'm just doing it for demonstrative purposes here. Let's move on to the second part of what is required for a financial management officer. And we'll assess our fictional financial management applicant's specialized work experience with auditing and internal controls this time. All right, so in the first example, the applicant wrote that they were the audit team lead. Okay, this is a job title. We see it quite often, but it does not provide any detail for assessors. Therefore, it would not satisfy the requirement to demonstrate experience in audit and internal controls. There is no mention of team size, budget size, duties utilized in the role, nor the scope of the role within the organization. Example number 2. Audit team lead for 15 international counterparts, administer audits and internal controls for $10 million maintenance contracts, report progress to board. Okay, this is better with more detail. Note that the applicant mentions budget size, which again is a required element, and places their role in context by referencing the team size. You'll also note that in order to reduce the space that they're using, they have cut down their grammar. It's not a complete sentence. This is likely because of space limitations, and that is fine. We get the point here. So let's look at what they came up with for their third example and try. I'm going to let you read that yourself. All right, this is a strong example. The applicant uses several key phrases and skilled action verbs from the vacancy announcement and places them in context along with an outcome of reporting to the board each quarter. They also mention other key skills listed in the broader vacancy announcement, such as persuasion, which is a huge part of Foreign Service work, GAAP accounting principles, the term reconcile expenditures and how they did it, internal control, quality assurance, audit, prepared reports, and presented. Again, the bolded words are for your reference during this presentation. Please do not bold words in your own work experience. So in our example of the fictional financial management officer applicant, their work experience at, let's call it ABC Corporation, may start to look like this as they begin to demonstrate specialized experience. The key here is to demonstrate as many specialized duties and accomplishments as possible for each job within the last 10 years. It is unlikely that you will demonstrate specialized experience for every position. It is also unlikely that you will cover all categories of specialized experience while working in a single position. Include duties and accomplishments that are not directly related to specialized experience as well, if space permits. This presents a realistic and comprehensive picture of your work history. But really, as a specialist, focus on your specialized experience because this is what will give you an edge. And I will say it one more time. Please list as many of these specialized work experience categories as possible in every job you have had within the last 10 years. All right, let's move on to the second part of your application, which is the supplemental questionnaire, also known as the accomplishments questionnaire. You will find this within the vacancy announcement on USA Jobs under the heading called Preview Questions for this Vacancy. It may also be under other headings, but please look for it. This questionnaire provides a second opportunity for you to highlight specialized work experience. Consider it an extension of your resume for the specific job to which you are applying. This section is particularly helpful if you experience character limitations on describing your specialized work experience when working within online Pearson VUE or Monster. Complete this questionnaire and submit it with your application. Now you should notice that the questions are tied to the Foreign Service dimensions, which are 11 characteristics that every successful candidate must demonstrate during the application process. We recommend that you study the Foreign Service dimensions on our website to understand them and to understand how we define them. Keep them in mind as you thoughtfully answer your questions. Typing answers such as "see resume" or I've already demonstrated leadership will end your candidacy. This is an opportunity to further describe your specialized qualifications and demonstrate the 11 Foreign Service dimensions. A good rule of thumb is to use an answer format where you describe the situation that you were in that demonstrates that skill they're asking about, that you describe your response or actions to the situation, and that you describe the outcome. Again, please include as many details as possible or reasonable to fully answer the question. Here are some example questions from a variety of vacancy announcements that are aligned with dimensions. You will see that absolutely everybody who applies will have the supplemental questionnaire, and many questions may not have a specific skill in front of it, such as our first one, diplomatic technology officer, interpersonal skills, and then it asks a question. Some will not clearly list out the skill, some will, but just know that each of these questions that you need to answer are tied back to one or more of the dimensions. The third part of every application is the statement of interest. It is also known as the motivation statement or personal statement. This section is where assessors learn more about you beyond work experience. They're wondering, what motivates you to apply for this position? Writing this part of the application can really be an introspective experience. We've seen applicants successfully discuss their family, heritage, volunteer work, and other personal experiences leading them to this point. Utilize the character limit to your advantage. Assessors want to see that you have thoroughly considered this career path and public service in general, understanding the positives and negatives of joining the Foreign Service. Consider it the third part of your interview. Tell us about yourself. Why are you applying for this position? And why are you interested in your particular specialty? It is more personal than the other two parts of the application, and probably one of the funnest things to read as an assessor. Some assessors will actually read this first before looking at the remainder of your application. It is also your third opportunity to highlight your specialized experience, especially if you were challenged by character limits in the work experience section. Include this statement with your application. Remember, each part of your application is an opportunity to showcase your unique qualifications and passion for the role. So let's discuss a few common mistakes and suggestions for what to do when preparing your application. First, plan ahead, gather documents, and submit all required documents. Particularly if you are using foreign education or certifications to qualify, you may need quite a bit of lead time to gather the appropriate documents from the appropriate institutions that will accredit your experience and evaluate it according to U.S. accreditation. You must use the member organizations that we list on our website. If you have something other than that, it will not be accepted. Your candidacy will end. So sometimes you may not be able to get all that documentation within the vacancy announcement period, but try. Just gather everything and do not submit until you have everything ready. Answer all questions. Fill in all text boxes with required text. So some of your applications may allow you to upload a resume, but then you might also see where you have to then fill in your work experience in an online form. Do that as well. Do not say see resume. Please fill in all text boxes with the required text. On your work experience, include dates and the hours worked in a job per week. We cannot see if you have determined to meet the required time in your job without those dates and the hours worked. Separate multiple jobs within the same company particularly if you have had a shift in responsibilities or job title. Use work only within the last 10 years. Nothing beyond that will be considered. Use key phrases from the vacancy announcement with details and accomplishments. And finally, if you are allowed to upload a resume, use the USA Jobs Resume Builder. Your resume does not need to be pretty. It just needs to have all the information needed to make sure that you pass through and begin the rest of your foreign service journey. Listen, we believe in your potential, and we're excited to see how your experiences and dedication can contribute to advancing U.S. diplomacy and making a global impact. But it all starts with your application. If you have further questions, please contact your local diplomat in residence, or if you have been engaging with a national recruiter, feel free to reach out to them as well. Good luck to you.